What happens when a social media star with millions of followers decides that a janitor is nothing more than an obstacle in her path to perfection? She is about to learn a lesson that money, filters, and followers cannot fix. She just made the biggest mistake of her career because that woman scrubbing the floor isn't just cleaning the showroom. She owns the building, and the cars, and the very ground the influencer is standing on. This is a story of arrogance, a sticky latte, and the most satisfying justice you will hear all year. The air inside Velocity Exotics always smelled the same. It was a cold, chemical mix of tire shine, premium leather conditioner, and the heavy, musky cologne worn by desperate salesmen. To the average person walking past the floor-to-ceiling glass windows on Wilshire Boulevard, this place looked like paradise. It was a temple of chrome and carbon fiber, housing machines that cost more than most people would earn in a decade. But for Alina Vance, currently dragging a heavy industrial mop across the black marble floor, it smelled like something else. It smelled like rot. Alina adjusted her gray jumpsuit. It was 3 sizes too big, swallowing her petite frame in stiff, scratchy cotton. Her dark hair was hidden under a faded baseball cap, pulled low to obscure her eyes. She paused, leaning against the mop handle, watching a fly buzz silently against the glass of the showroom doors. She had founded Velocity Automotive Group 5 years ago. She had built it from a single used lot into the premier luxury supplier on the West Coast. But for the last 3 months, the numbers at this flagship location had been bleeding. Profits were down. Customer satisfaction scores had plummeted into the single digits, and Alina needed to know why. She dipped the mop back into the gray water of the yellow bucket. The water swirled, murky and unappealing. Across the showroom near the reception desk, a loud, grating voice cut through the quiet hum of the air conditioning. "I don't care what his budget is, Leo. If he is not buying today, get him off the lot." Alina kept her head down, but her eyes darted to the source of the noise. It was Rick, the general sales manager. Rick was a man who wore suits that were too tight and shiny in a shade of blue that assaulted the eyes. He was standing over Leo, a junior salesman who looked like he hadn't slept in a week. Leo held a clipboard against his chest like a shield. "Mr. Rick, please," Leo said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "That is Mr. Henderson. He has bought 3 Porsches from us in the last 10 years. He just wants to see the new hybrid engine." Rick laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound that lacked any warmth. He stepped closer to Leo, invading the younger man's personal space. "Henderson is a tire kicker, Leo," Rick spat. "He is wasting time, and time is my money. You have been with a client for 45 minutes and I don't see a deposit slip. If you cannot close, move aside and let the sharks eat. Now get him out of here before I give your leads to Marco." Alina's grip on the mop handle tightened until her knuckles turned white. She watched as Rick turned his back on Leo, checking his reflection in the window of a black Ferrari. He adjusted his tie, ran a hand through his gelled hair, and checked his gold watch. He was the problem. Alina knew it, but knowing it wasn't enough, she needed proof. She needed to see exactly how deep the corruption went. She pushed the mop bucket forward. The plastic wheels rattled violently against the grout lines of the floor. Rick spun around, his eyes narrowing as they landed on her. "Hey!" Rick shouted, snapping his fingers. "You, Porter, you missed a spot over by the entrance. I want this floor looking like liquid glass. If I see one streak, you are scrubbing the service bay toilets with a toothbrush. Do you understand me?" Alina did not look up. She simply nodded, a slow, subservient motion. "Yes, Mr. Rick," she mumbled, pitching her voice to sound tired and dull. "Pathetic," Rick muttered, turning back to his phone. Alina pushed the bucket toward the entrance. She felt a cold, simmering anger in her chest. Rick treated the staff like inventory, assets to be used or discarded. But today, the inventory was taking notes. The double glass doors at the front of the dealership did not just open. They were thrown wide with a force that vibrated through the hinges. The atmosphere in the showroom shifted instantly. The quiet, Reverent silence of the luxury car floor was shattered by a voice that was high-pitched, rapid, and performing for an invisible audience. "Okay, guys, we are literally walking in right now. Oh my God, the lighting in here is tragic. Wait, let me fix the exposure." Crystal stepped into Velocity Exotics. She was a whirlwind of neon pink and designer labels. She wore oversized sunglasses indoors, a crop top that cost more than Alina's first car, and she was holding a massive smartphone on a gimbal stabilizer, pointing the lens directly at her own face. This was Crystal with a K, an influencer, a reality television hopeful, a woman who measured her self-worth in likes and engagement metrics. She didn't look at the cars. She didn't look at the reception desk. She walked straight down the center aisle, talking to her phone screen. "So, like I told you guys on the last stream, I need something that screams I made it, but also I am humble, but like expensive humble. You know, put a fire emoji in the chat if you think I should get the Lamborghini." She was walking fast backward, ensuring the light hit her cheekbones just right. Alina saw it happening before anyone else. Crystal was walking directly toward the yellow mop bucket. "Ma'am, watch out," Alina called out, her voice sharp. It was too late. Crystal's high heel caught the edge of the bucket. Crystal stumbled. She didn't fall, but she flailed, her arms windmilling to keep her balance. The phone on the gimbal swung wildly. She managed to stay upright, but her expensive limited edition sneaker landed squarely in a puddle of soapy gray water. The silence that followed was absolute. Crystal stared down at her shoe. It was a white sneaker, now stained with a dark, wet splotch of floor cleaner. She looked up and her eyes locked onto Alina. She lowered her sunglasses. Her eyes were wide with disbelief and rage. "Did you?" Crystal's voice trembled. "Did you just ruin my shot?" Alina blinked. "I warned you, miss, the wet floor sign is right there." Alina pointed to the bright yellow plastic sign standing clearly 3 feet away. Crystal didn't look at the sign. She looked at her phone, checking the comments rolling in on her live stream. "Oh my God, you guys, look at this!" Crystal shrieked, flipping the camera to point at Alina. This person just tried to trip me. Look at her. She is literally attacking me with dirty water." Crystal stepped closer to Alina, thrusting the phone into Alina's face. Alina pulled the brim of her cap down further, turning her face away from the lens. "You are so rude," Crystal snapped. "Do you know how much these shoes cost? These are the unreleased Yeezys. They cost $2,000. You probably don't even make that in a month." Alina gripped the mop. "I am just doing my job, miss. Please be careful." "Don't tell me what to do," Crystal yelled. "You are literally the help. You are trash. You are an NPC in my main character energy right now. Move your bucket before I have you fired." The commotion had drawn attention. From the sales desk, Rick looked up. His eyes widened as he recognized the woman screaming in the middle of his showroom. He didn't see a rude customer. He saw a blue checkmark. He saw followers. He saw free marketing. Rick sprinted across the showroom floor. He moved with a speed that was shocking for a man in such tight trousers. He completely ignored an elderly couple, Mr. and Mrs. Miller, who had been waiting at his desk for 10 minutes to sign paperwork for a sedan. "Miss Crystal," Rick boomed, his voice dripping with synthetic charm. "Welcome to Velocity Exotics. Oh wow, it is such an honor. My niece follows you. I saw your unboxing video last week. Genius, pure genius." Crystal turned the camera to Rick, instantly switching her expression from rage to a practiced, pouty victimhood. "This man gets it," Crystal said to her phone. Then she pointed a long, manicured acrylic nail at Alina. "Rick, right, Rick, this janitor just assaulted me with a bucket. My vibe is totally thrown off. I am shaking, literally shaking." Rick turned to Alina. The charm vanished from his face instantly, replaced by a sneer of pure contempt. "What is wrong with you?" Rick hissed at Alina. "Can you not do the simplest task without causing a disaster? You are embarrassing the dealership." "She walked into the bucket, Mr. Rick," Alina said calmly. "The sign is right there." "I don't care about the sign," Rick shouted. "I care that Miss Crystal is upset. Apologize now." Alina looked at Crystal, who was smirking behind her phone screen, capturing every moment of the humiliation for her fans. "I am sorry you didn't see the sign," Alina said, her voice flat. "Good enough," Rick said, waving his hand dismissively. "Now get this bucket out of here. Go clean the back alley. You are hurting the aesthetic." Rick turned back to Crystal, his smile returning like a light switch had been flipped. "Miss Crystal, please accept my deepest apologies. That employee is new, very low quality. We are thinking of letting her go. Please let me make it up to you. Can I get you anything? Champagne? Espresso?" Crystal sighed dramatically, fanning herself with her free hand. "I need water, sparkling, imported, not the domestic stuff," and make her get it. Crystal pointed the phone at Alina again. "I want to see her serve me. It is only fair, right, guys?" Rick didn't hesitate. He snapped his fingers at Alina, a sharp cracking sound that echoed in the high ceilings. "You heard the lady," Rick barked. "Voss water, chilled, bring it to the VIP lounge and do not drop it." Alina stood still for a second. The disrespect was physical. It felt like a slap, but she wasn't done yet. She needed to see the transaction. She needed to see Rick negotiate. "Yes, Mr. Rick," Alina said softly. She turned and walked toward the staff kitchen, her footsteps heavy. 10 minutes later, the scene had moved to the primary display area. Crystal had her water, which she had taken from Alina without a thank you or even a glance. She was now standing in front of the crown jewel of the showroom, the Chimera 700. It was a hypercar, painted in a matte midnight purple that seemed to absorb the light. It was low, wide, and looked like it was moving even when it was parked. The price tag on the window read $450,000. Rick was in his element. He was circling the car, using grand gestures, playing to Crystal's camera. "This, Miss Crystal, is the beast you need," Rick said, slapping the roof of the car. "This is Italian engineering at its finest. 700 horsepower. 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. It is the only one in Lowe's Angels." Crystal nodded, looking at her reflection in the window. "It matches my nails," she said thoughtfully. "Is it loud? I need it to be loud. Like when I pull up to valet, I want people to be scared." "Oh, it is terrifying," Rick assured her. "It has a V12 engine. It screams." Alina was sweeping the floor nearby, moving the dust broom in slow, rhythmic strokes. She paused. The Chimera 700 did not have a V12 engine. It was a twin-turbo V8. It was a specific engineering choice made to reduce weight. Anyone who sold these cars should know that. It was basic product knowledge. Alina took a step closer, unable to help herself. "It is a V8, she said, her voice quiet but clear. Rick stopped mid-sentence. He slowly turned his head to look at her. Crystal lowered her phone, looking annoyed at the interruption. "Excuse me," Rick said, his voice dangerously low. "The Chimera," Alina said, keeping her eyes on the broom. "It is a 4-liter twin-turbo V8, not a V12, and the horsepower is 720, not 700. Rick's face turned a shade of red that matched the stitching on the car seats. He marched over to Alina, grabbing her by the arm of her oversized jumpsuit and pulling her away from the camera's view. "Listen to me, you gutter rat," Rick whispered, his breath smelling of stale coffee and mints. "Do not ever correct me in front of a client. I don't care what the engine is." "She doesn't care what the engine is. She is buying a status symbol. You are here to sweep dust, not speak. If I hear one more word out of your mouth, you will be fired before you can blink. Do you understand?" Alina looked at Rick's hand on her sleeve. "I understand that you are lying to a customer, Mr. Rick." Rick shoved her back. "Get out of my sight. Go clean the customer lounge, and take your trash bucket with you." Alina walked away, her heart pounding. Rick wasn't just a bully, he was incompetent. He didn't know his product. He was selling snake oil to people with too much money. The deal was progressing. Crystal had decided she wanted the Chimera. It was the perfect prop for her new season. They were sitting inside the car now. Crystal was in the driver's seat, holding a large iced latte she had ordered from a delivery app. The cup was sweating condensation onto the leather, but Rick didn't say a word. He was leaning into the passenger window, holding the paperwork. "So here is the thing, Rick," Crystal said, looking at the contract. 450 is a little steep. I mean, think about the exposure I am giving you. I have 3 million followers. If I tag you, you guys are going to blow up. I think we should do a collab price." Rick hesitated. Even he had limits. "Miss Crystal, this is a limited production vehicle. The margin is tight. I can maybe throw in the ceramic coating for free. That is a $2,000 value." Crystal pouted. "2,000? Rick honey, my stories are worth 10,000 a post. I need a real discount, like 50% off." Rick laughed nervously. 50%? I cannot do that. The owner would kill me." "The owner isn't here, are they?" Crystal asked, looking around. "It is just you and me. Make it happen." "I really can't," Rick said, his sweat starting to show on his forehead. "I have to authorize that with corporate." Crystal's face hardened. She looked at the camera, then at Rick. She realized she was losing the power dynamic. She needed leverage. She needed a reason for the price to drop. Her eyes drifted to the center console of the car. The leather was perforated, hand-stitched and pristine. She looked at her iced latte. It was full of caramel syrup and sticky sugar. Elena was watching from the reflection of the glass office across the room. She saw Crystal look at the drink. She saw the calculation in her eyes. "Don't do it," Elena whispered to herself. Crystal looked at Rick, who had turned away to grab a pen from his pocket. With a quick, deliberate motion, Crystal tilted the cup. The lid popped off. 16 ounces of brown, sticky coffee poured directly into the gear shift mechanism and soaked into the porous leather of the driver's seat. "Oh my God!" Crystal shrieked, dropping the empty cup onto the floor mat. Rick spun around. His jaw dropped. The liquid was already seeping into the electronics of the center console. The smell of sugary coffee filled the new car air. "My dress!" Crystal screamed, though not a drop had touched her clothes. "Look what happened, the cup holder, it is defective, it tilted the cup." Rick stared at the mess. This was a disaster. This was tens of thousands of dollars in damage. "The cup holder," Rick stammered. "The cup holder is fixed, Miss Crystal, it doesn't move." Crystal's eyes flashed with predatory instinct. She needed a scapegoat. She needed someone to blame so she wouldn't be liable. Her eyes scanned the room. They landed on Elena, who was standing 20 feet away by the pillars. "It wasn't the cup holder," Crystal shouted, her voice changing pitch. "It was her. She bumped the car." Crystal pointed an accusing finger at Elena. "You," Crystal yelled. "You bumped the bumper with your broom. The car shook and my drink spilled. I felt it. The whole car moved." Rick turned to Elena. His face was purple. He didn't care about the physics. He didn't care that a broom couldn't shake a 4,000-pound car. He needed a villain that wasn't the rich girl with the 3 million followers. "You," Rick growled. Rick marched across the floor. He didn't walk, he stomped. He reached Elena and got so close that spit flew from his mouth when he screamed. "You clumsy, idiotic waste of space," Rick bellowed. The entire dealership went silent. Even the mechanics in the back stopped their impact wrenches. "I didn't touch the car, Mr. Rick," Elena said, her voice steady, though her hands were shaking. "I was 20 feet away." "Don't you lie to me," Rick shouted. "Miss Crystal saw you. Are you calling our VIP client a liar?" "She poured the drink herself," Elena said calmly. "She wanted a discount." "Shut up," Rick screamed. "Just shut up. Look at that car. The electronics are ruined. The leather is ruined. That is a $20,000 repair job, and you are going to pay for it." Rick grabbed Elena's shoulder. "You are fired, you hear me? Fired, done. Get your things and get out, and don't think you are getting your last paycheck. I am keeping it to cover the detailing bill." Crystal had climbed out of the car now. She walked over, phone still recording. "Yeah, get out," Crystal sneered. "You almost ruined my dress. You should be in jail for property damage. Honestly, people like you shouldn't be allowed around nice things." Leo, the young salesman, stepped forward. He couldn't take it anymore. "Rick, stop," Leo said, his voice trembling. "I was watching. She was nowhere near the car." Crystal dropped the cup. Rick whirled on Leo. "One more word, Leo, and you are gone too. You want to join the janitor in the unemployment line? Keep talking." Leo closed his mouth, looking down at his shoes, defeated. Rick turned back to Elena. "I said get out, or I am calling the police for trespassing." Elena looked at Rick. She looked at Crystal, who was checking her makeup in the selfie camera, bored now that the drama was peaking. Alina took a deep breath. She reached up and grabbed the brim of her dirty baseball cap. "You are right, Rick," Alina said. Her voice changed. The subservient, tired tone vanished. It was replaced by a voice of cold, polished steel. "Someone is definitely getting fired today." She pulled the cap off and tossed it onto the floor. Her dark hair cascaded down her shoulders. She unzipped the front of the gray-stained jumpsuit. Rick watched, confused. "What are you doing? Striptease? Get out." Alina shrugged the jumpsuit off her shoulders, letting it pool around her ankles. Underneath, she wasn't wearing rags. She was wearing a tailored black blazer, silk trousers, and a pair of heels that cost more than Rick's car. She stepped out of the pile of dirty cotton. She stood taller. She didn't look like a janitor anymore. She looked like a shark. She reached into the pocket of the jumpsuit on the floor and pulled out a sleek black smartphone. Who are you?" Rick whispered, the color draining from his face. "My name is Alina Vance," she said, her voice echoing in the silent showroom. "I am the founder and majority shareholder of Velocity Automotive Group." She tapped her phone screen. "And this is my building." Crystal laughed. It was a nervous, high-pitched sound. "What is this, undercover boss? This is so staged." "You are lying." Alina ignored her. She pointed the phone at the massive 400-inch LED screen on the wall, the one usually used to display car specs. "Leo," Alina said calmly, "connect to source 3. Leo, stunned, scrambled to the control iPad on the wall. He tapped the button. The screen flickered. The image of the Ferrari advertisement disappeared. In its place was a high-definition video feed. It was the security camera footage from 3 minutes ago. On the massive screen, everyone watched in 40-foot high definition. They saw Crystal sitting in the car. They saw her look at the cup. They saw her look at Alina in the distance. And they saw her deliberately, carefully pour the coffee into the center console. The silence in the room was heavy enough to crush a diamond. Alina turned to Crystal, whose mouth was opening and closing like a fish out of water. "That," Alina said, pointing at the screen, "is intentional vandalism of a luxury asset. It is a felony." She turned to Rick. Rick was shaking. He looked like he was going to vomit. "And you," Alina said to Rick, "we need to discuss your commission structure and why you have been stealing leads from your team." Rick tried to speak. "Miss Vance, I didn't know. I was protecting the brand, I thought." "You thought I was a nobody," Alina interrupted. "You thought I was someone you could bully because I held a mop. You treated me with the same disrespect you show to every customer who doesn't look rich enough for your taste." Alina walked over to the desk, Rick's desk. She sat down in his leather chair. It was a symbolic conquest. "I have been here for 3 days, Rick," Alina said, scrolling through a tablet she had pulled from her bag. "I have watched you shout at Leo. I have watched you ignore the Millers, who have spent $500,000 with us over the years just to chase an Instagram view." She turned the tablet around so Rick could see. It was a spreadsheet. "And I found this," she said. "You have been marking up the interest rates on first-time buyers and pocketing the difference as a consulting fee. That is fraud, Rick." Rick fell to his knees. Literally. He collapsed onto the marble floor he had forced Alina to scrub. "Please," Rick sobbed. "I have a mortgage. I have a boat payment. Please give me a warning. I will change." "You are fired," Alina said. "Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. You are not to touch any computer. You are not to speak to any staff." 2 large security guards who had been waiting in the back office stepped forward. They grabbed Rick by the arms. He was weeping now, a pathetic, broken sound. As they dragged him toward the door, he passed Leo. Leo didn't look down this time. He looked Rick in the eye and smiled. When the doors closed behind Rick, the air in the room seemed to get lighter. Alina turned her attention to Crystal. Crystal had tried to sneak away during Rick's firing. She was near the door, trying to push it open with her hip while hiding her face. "Where are you going, Crystal?" Alina called out. Crystal froze. She turned around, trying to summon her attitude, but it was weak now. "I am leaving," Crystal said. "This place has bad energy. I am not buying the car." "Oh, you are definitely buying the car," Elena said, walking over to the purple Chimera. "Or at least you are buying the parts you destroyed." Elena ran a finger over the sticky, ruined leather. The center console of a Chimera 700 is made of a single piece of aerospace-grade carbon fiber, Elena explained calmly. The leather is sourced from a specific tannery in Italy. To replace this, we have to ship the entire interior unit from Turin. Parts and labor, that will be roughly $28,000. "I'm not paying that," Crystal shrieked. "It was an accident." "We have the video, Crystal," Elena said. "And my legal team is very bored. They would love a lawsuit, or—" Elena paused. She looked at Crystal's phone, which was still live streaming. "Or you can leave right now. You will be banned from all Velocity locations forever, and you will never mention this dealership again. If you do, I will release the security footage to every gossip site in America. I wonder what your sponsors will think when they see you vandalizing property for a discount." Crystal looked at the phone. The comments were already flying by. User 77 says, "Did she really pour that coffee?" Cancelled Car Guy 99 says, "Imagine destroying a Chimera for clout." Unfollowing, Crystal turned pale. She realized her career was dangling by a thread. "Fine," Crystal whispered. "I'm leaving." She turned and ran. She pushed the door open and stumbled out into the bright Lowe's Angel sun, her unreleased Yeezys squeaking on the pavement. She looked small. She looked ordinary. Elena stood in the center of the showroom. The staff, mechanics, receptionists, junior sales associates gathered around her. They looked terrified. They didn't know what to expect from the billionaire owner. Elena looked at them. She saw the fear Rick had instilled in them. "Listen to me," Elena said, her voice soft but carrying to the back of the room. "What happened here ends today. This company was built on respect. Respect for the machines and respect for the people." She walked over to Leo. "Leo," she said. "Yes, Miss Vance," Leo stammered. "You tried to stand up for me when I was a janitor," she said. "You risked your job to tell the truth. That is the kind of leadership I need." She gestured to Rick's empty glass office. "The general manager position is open," Elena said. "Do you want it?" Leo's mouth fell open. "Me, but I have only been here 2 years." "You know the product," Elena smiled. "And you know how to treat people. The office is yours. Start by calling the Millers and apologizing. Give them the employee discount on that sedan." Leo beamed. "Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Miss Vance." Elena looked around the room. She bent down and picked up the yellow mop bucket. "I'm going to finish cleaning the entrance," she said. The staff gasped. "Miss Vance, no," a receptionist cried. "We can do it." Elena shook her head. "No, I want to remember this, and I want you to remember it. No job is beneath us. We are a team. Now let's sell some cars." As Elena pushed the bucket toward the door, the sun hit the wet floor, making the black marble shine like a mirror. It wasn't just clean. It was perfect. And outside on the sidewalk, a very expensive, very sticky influencer was trying to call an Uber, realizing that for the first time in a long time, nobody cared who she was. The Uber ride was silent. Crystal sat in the back of a Honda Civic that smelled faintly of vanilla air freshener and old fast food. It was a far cry from the Italian leather of the Chimera she had just destroyed. She held her phone with trembling hands. Her live stream had ended abruptly when she ran out of the showroom, but the internet never sleeps. The clip, the specific segment where Elena revealed the security footage, had been screen recorded by hundreds of viewers. It was already circulating on TikTok, Twitter, and Reddit. Crystal refreshed her notification feed. Usually this action brought her a dopamine hit of likes and heart emojis. Today it brought a tidal wave of vitriol. A notification popped up at the top of the screen. It was an email from Lux Skin, her primary sponsor for the last 6 months. The subject line was 3 words, "Contract Termination Notice." Crystal gasped. "No," she whispered to the empty car. "They cannot do that." She opened the email. It was brutal in its brevity. It stated that her behavior at Velocity Exotics violated the morality clause of her agreement. They were pulling her code. They were canceling her upcoming brand trip to Chelum. and they were demanding the return of the products sent last week. The phone vibrated in her hand. It was her manager, Todd. Crystal answered, desperate for a lifeline. "Todd," she cried, "you have to fix this. That woman, she edited the footage. It is a deep fake. You have to sue them." Todd's voice was cold on the other end of the line. "Crystal, stop. I just got off the phone with the legal team at Velocity. They sent over the raw 4K video files. There is no editing. You poured coffee into a $500,000 car." "It was a prank," Crystal insisted, tears stinging her eyes. "It was contempt." "It was a felony," Todd corrected. "And it is over. The agency is dropping you, Crystal. We cannot represent a liability. Do not contact us again." The line went dead. Crystal stared at the phone. The battery icon turned red, 10% remaining. She looked out the window as the Honda passed a billboard. It was an advertisement for Velocity Exotics. The tagline read, "Excellence is not an act but a habit." She realized then that her career had not just stumbled, it had been totaled. 3 weeks later, the sun was beating down on a stretch of cracked asphalt in the San Fernando Valley. This was not Wilshire Boulevard. There were no marble floors here. There was only a chain-link fence topped with razor wire and rows of high-mileage sedans with faded paint. Rick adjusted his tie. It was the same shiny blue suit, but now it looked out of place among the dusty compact cars. He was sweating. He walked into the portable trailer that served as the sales office for Big Al's Discount Auto. The air conditioner inside was rattling loudly, struggling to cool the small space. Big Al sat behind a metal desk covered in paperwork and ash. He was a large man with grease stains on his shirt. He didn't look up when Rick entered. "Name?" Big Al grunted. "Rick," he said, puffing out his chest, trying to summon the arrogance that had fueled him for years. "Rick Sterling. I sent over my resume. I manage the floor at Velocity Exotics, top-tier luxury. I can sell anything." Big Al finally looked up. He squinted at Rick. Then a slow, unpleasant grin spread across his face. "Velocity, huh?" Big Al asked. "I heard about what happened over there. The coffee incident." Rick's smile faltered. "Oh, that, just a misunderstanding. A rogue employee, terrible management above me. I actually left because I disagreed with their direction." Big Al laughed. It was a wet, wheezing sound. He turned his computer monitor around. On the screen was a LinkedIn post. It was from Alina Vance. It had over 50,000 likes. It detailed the new Integrity First policy at Velocity and specifically mentioned the termination of toxic management leadership to protect staff welfare. Rick's name wasn't mentioned explicitly, but the industry is small. Everyone knew. "You didn't leave, Rick," Big Al said. "You got tossed out by the owner while she was wearing a janitor outfit. That is the story, right?" Rick swallowed hard. I have experience. I can move units, Al. I can sell ice to a polar bear." "I don't need you to sell ice," Big Al said, turning back to his paperwork. "And I don't need a guy who steals leads from his own team. I talk to people, Rick. I know what you did to that kid, Leo. We might sell cheap cars here, but we are honest. Get off my lot." "But I need a job," Rick pleaded, his voice cracking. "I have a mortgage." "Should have thought about that before you treated people like dirt," Big Al said. "Now get out. You are blocking the customer entrance." Rick walked out of the trailer. He stood in the dust, looking at a 15-year-old sedan with a "As Is" sticker on the window. For the first time in his life, he realized he wasn't the shark. He was the bait. Back at Velocity Exotics, the atmosphere had transformed. The heavy, oppressive tension that used to hang in the air like smog was gone. The showroom was bright. Soft jazz music played over the speakers. Alina Vance walked through the front doors. She was not wearing a jumpsuit today. She was wearing a crisp navy business suit. She held a coffee cup in her hand with a secure lid. The receptionist, a young woman named Sarah who used to be terrified to make eye contact with management, looked up and smiled beamingly. "Good morning, Miss Vance," Sarah chirped. "Good morning, Sarah," Alina replied. "How is the volume today?" "Steady," Sarah said. "And Mr. Leo is with the Millers in the delivery bay. They are picking up their new sedan." Alina nodded and walked toward the back. She found Leo standing next to a pristine silver luxury sedan. He was handing a set of keys to the elderly couple, Mr. and Mrs. Miller. "Now the infotainment system is a bit different," Leo was saying patiently. "But I have programmed your favorite radio stations already. And if you have any trouble, you just call my personal cell, okay?" Mr. Miller patted Leo on the back. "You are a good young man, Leo. Much better than that other fellow. What was his name? The loud one." "It doesn't matter," Mrs. Miller said. "He is gone, and good riddance." Leo looked up and saw Alina watching. He excused himself and walked over. He looked tired, but it was a good tired, the exhaustion of honest work. "How does the chair feel?" Alina asked. "It is big," Leo admitted. "But we are up 12% this month, and the staff turnover is 0. No one has quit." "That is what happens when people enjoy coming to work," Alina said. "I am proud of you, Leo." "I knew I picked the right person." Leo looked at the floor, then back at Alina. "Can I ask you something, Miss Vance? Why did you do it? Why did you put on the jumpsuit? You could have just looked at the spreadsheets." Alina looked out at the showroom floor, where a porter was carefully polishing the fender of a convertible. "Spreadsheets tell you how much money you are making," Alina said softly. "They don't tell you how you are making it. You cannot see culture from a corner office, Leo. Sometimes you have to get down on your knees and scrub the floor to see where the cracks are." She patted him on the shoulder. "Keep up the good work. I will be in my office." Alina walked away, the click of her heels echoing on the marble. She stopped at the entrance just for a second, looking at the spot where the yellow bucket used to sit. She smiled. It was perfectly clean. The story of the billionaire janitor spread far beyond Lowe's Angels. It became a case study in business schools and a cautionary tale for influencers everywhere. Crystal tried to rebrand herself as a victim of corporate bullying, but the internet has a long memory. Her follower count dropped by millions. She was eventually forced to sell her designer wardrobe on resale sites to pay her rent. Rick never worked in luxury automotive sales again. The last anyone heard, he was selling timeshares over the phone, a job where nobody could see his cheap suits. And Velocity Exotics continued to thrive, proving that the most valuable asset in any business isn't the inventory, the building, or the brand name. It is the dignity of the people who work there. Narrator outro. What would you have done if you were in Alina's shoes? Would you have fired Rick on the spot, or would you have let the police handle the property damage? And do you think Crystal deserved to lose her entire career over one cup of coffee? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of karma and justice, please make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel. And do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story from us. We post new real-life dramas every single week. Thanks for watching, and remember, be careful who you step on, because they might be the one holding the keys to the building.